Welcome to the Aftermath.
This is the best music discussion on the net. I'm Soren Baker.
I'm Billy Johnson Jr.
And today, we're joined by new Def Jam Records.
Island Def Jam. Come on.
Island Def Jam. I like Def Jam and Island Def Jam.
Both is better. Two is better than one.
But regardless, however you call it, it's still Iggy Azalea. So thank you for coming through.
That's what's important.
Hey, something's very significant, Soren and I have to tell you. When we started doing our show here, The Aftermath, a couple years ago, this is when we were introduced to you. And the famous peace song. We're like, who's this new girl? What's she talking about, Willis?
And I still feel new. Like 2 years later.
Yeah,
well, that's good.
You made quite an impression. Yeah, we're like,
yeah,
check her out. She dropping.
You loved it.
Yeah, we did. So, I mean, I know, you have been doing your thing, but like making that kind of, for a lot of people, maybe that was like their introduction to
definitely.
E. So that was a pretty big statement,
Yeah.
Like, so what was the thought process where you like, okay, like they're going to know who the hell I
am? You know what? It's funny. I actually had put out like a few different little videos, just rapping and stuff like that, and I would always do stop motion animation. And
right.
I kind of had this theory that I feel like people complain about the status of rap music and what the content is and what the subject matter is, and I always feel like what you listen to and what is popular tells me otherwise, that you want something different that you might not admit to. And I made 2 videos. One was a Kanye West remix to Hell of a Life, where I was completely clothed. I could have gone to church on a Sunday in it, and I had some great lyrics. And then I had another video called P2 Times, and it had some different cats and things going on.
Very creative.
Which do you think got more views?
Right.
So my experiment the conclusion, it confirmed what I suspected, and I thought, you know what, I really liked this song, but it was a remix, like a mixtape thing, on Gucci Mane remix to his song Gucci 2 Times, and I thought I want to make like a part 2, and I want to do it again. I want to do it bigger and better and have a real video, and so that's why I decided to do that. It was kind of just an ongoing experiment, I suppose.
Yeah, well. Yeah, very successful experiment.
Another successful experiment.
And it's
I'm
like
a scientist.
We've been hearing about you ever since. Now there's other things to talk about as well,
There is.
Which I think is pretty cool.
I agree.
So you're now on Island Def Jam,
Yep.
for those that don't know.
I feel like it's taken so long for me to finally have a major label rep in America, but I honestly think that in this day and age, a lot of people seem to forget about artist development, and perhaps not all labels are signing artists and developing them. I think now there's like a bit of a thing going on where artists already have a fan base garnered, and then they get signed, and then they blow up. And I thought, well, I'm not ready to do that, so why don't I try to develop myself a bit more last year and do my own mixtapes and do my own development, and then when I feel ready, then I'll put out an album. And I felt ready this year. I felt like I'd done enough mixtapes, and so it's good to finally have a home.
So what did you learn about yourself during that process?
So much.
For instance.
You know what? I think last year was so hard for me to find balance living your life kind of under scrutiny of strangers, and that's a really hard thing to adjust to. And a lot of things that you hear all the time about celebrities or people wanting to know what you wear and things like this, you think you'll be ready for it, and then when you see how close it can hit to your heart, you'll never be ready for it. Things like love or failures, it's very hard to fail in front of the world. It's very hard to do, and so I think I felt a bit of animosity, and I felt a bit angry and aggression, and I got it all out in my mixtapes, and I wanted to have aggressive music and try these different dance sounds, and I ran away to Europe and met new people and kind of shut myself off and felt like I could kind of resolve a lot of these things inside of myself, and then come back this year and feel like I've definitely like been pumping weights with my brain and mentally.
Yeah.
And now that you're having the success with work and everything, go back and revisit the controversy with the Kendrick Lamar. Like, what did that incident teach you, when you're using lyrics and people are
you know what? I think it's hard because when you're an artist, and that's what we are, although we're musicians, you're still an artist.
And a scientist.
Conducting experiments and whatnot.
Yes.
I think we make music as an artist, first and foremost, for ourselves, and we're selfish in that. And so when I did that lyric, I knew that it would rub people the wrong way, but it was a selfish thing of me, because I thought I'm doing it as an artist and I'm experimenting and I can go as far as I want. And it was kind of, I think, very young of me to do that and not consider, well, this is still a whole other culture that are going to feel this way about it. And sometimes you can make excuses for why you should be able to do the thing that you should be able to do. And since then, I feel like although I still push the limit on things, I think now that I'm a bit older, I definitely consider other people and their
I think it's hard. It's
too.
funny. I didn't think about it from that perspective with the whole Rick Ross situation, because I feel too like a big part of rap is being in the moment and having the angst and just you just kind of let it out. But maybe sometimes I guess you kind of have to edit yourself. But censorship is an issue, and so it's
so
touchy.
Since then, have you realized or have you retracted or taken back any lyrics you were writing and you're like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't say that?
No, I mean, even with the Kendrick Lamar thing, I think a lot of people didn't realize, because it was so much negative press, that I actually apologized for it and had a whole written. I wrote a letter and I made my amends.
You did an open letter before Jay-Z did.
I did. Nobody even asked me. I didn't even have a record label. It wasn't even required.
You owe her a shout out.
I know. I'm such a good PR for myself. And Kendrick is actually a really good friend of mine. He's cool, and it's all fine now, I think. But I think now that I'm sort of here, more established, I don't think so much about maybe doing things for shock value as what I used to. And I think there are only so many things that you can pull out of your hat to shock people. And when you see almost like artists like Lady Gaga, as great as she is, it kind of gets to the point now where we're like, what are you going to do next to shock us?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think you have to be very careful as an artist as using that as your crutch, shocking people and starting to rely on this thing. And I thought, I don't want to rely on this thing anymore. I want to start telling people different things about myself, and I want to start telling people about my life, and we see that on my single work, and it's biographical, and you know more about me. So I don't think it's ever a conscious decision to not do that. I think it's just that I feel I covered that, and now I want to move on to something else.
I really like the video for Work and the song, and you are, like, it is like a biographical, this is who I am, and I think it helps, put things in perspective.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think a lot of people were really wanting to hear my story on a track, and they'd heard it in interviews, but it's not quite the same as when it's on a song, and you can really feel like it emotes something in people. And I always wanted to wait until my album to tell those stories, because I do believe that you can only say those things once and make that first impression once. And I wanted to make sure it was on a platform that it could reach as many people as possible, and it was in the best way. So I knew for my first single, it had to be that. And I'm just really glad that people are receiving it well, and it makes you feel happy, because it's so personal to me. It's the most personal thing I've ever done. And when you do those things, you feel very vulnerable. So I was like, I'm scared. What are people going to think? But it's been good.
You're all right.
And then how does that all tie into the new classic, the album coming later this year?
The album, basically, I've got another single in the UK, which is Bounce, and that's kind of like really party and probably as pop as people have ever seen me do. But it's just a testament to the fact that I feel like the album is kind of it's a mashup of all the different things that kind of make me me. And I said the other day, actually, on my Twitter, I said, imagine if you could only have one album to tell the world who you are, what 12 songs would you pick of all the songs in the world? And when you put it that way, it's so difficult, and you would want a lot of different styles of music and different things to explain yourself. And for me, I always think I do it like it could be my last, and I think I could never get another album. You never know what's around the corner. And so if this were my only album, what would I want to say on there for people to be able to understand and know who I am? So when you listen to the album, you'll see that it's just like, it's a journey. There's a lot of stuff. There's stuff like Work, and I got a song, Walk the Line, which is about my life too, but more recently what's going on. And then there's fun stuff, and there's relationship stuff, and it's just I'm all over the place. I'm a woman. It's like crazy erraticness.
Well, let's talk about Australia. Coming from Australia, a female hip hop artist, a white female hip hop artist in Australia. Yeah. So what was it like? Did people get what you were trying to do? I heard you say that like when you were saying you were gonna leave, and people were like, well, yeah, whatever. We'll see you next semester or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they did. People definitely didn't support it, and I think it's a bit of a ridiculous dream to have, you know what I mean, if you're going to be honest, but I think the best things in life are the most ridiculous things. And I read a quote the other day, and it said, I'd rather be ridiculously crazy than ridiculously boring. Yeah. And I agree, and I thought, I totally identify. So I think sometimes people have an obsession with like the mundane, almost on average or mundane is so okay and acceptable, and anything that's a little ridiculous is like, why would you want to do that? Yeah. So me wanting to be a rapper, and in Australia the most ridiculous dream you could dream wasn't exactly received well, but once I got to America it got a lot more easy, and I think a lot of the people that I would met kind of just appreciated that I was from another culture and I was interested in it, and it wasn't met with hostility. It was welcomed, like, this is cool, you are from somewhere else and you want to know about our culture and what we're doing, and we're flattered, and like, come on in and check it out. So once I got here, I feel like the ball kind of rolled a lot quicker than it being in Australia.
Yeah. And why do you think people are so comfortable or so accepting of the mundane?
I don't know. Perhaps because it's harder to fail at mundane things. I think people are afraid to say that they're great or want to be great. Even with my album title, which is the new classic, I hear so many people say, well, she shouldn't say that because the word classic. What if it's not classic? Well, what if it's not?
It'll be one of your classic albums, that's for sure.
It doesn't matter. It's just a word. And I hate that people are afraid to be great. And the reason we're afraid to be great is because we're afraid to fail. But ironically, you can't go through life without failing a lot of times. Some of the times you fail, you won't even realize that you've done it. So it's like, why not set the bar for yourself? So that's what I think is the fear of mundane, fear of failure.
Right. So let's talk about T.I. So very significant. You know, this girl from Australia who wanted to make it big in rap, and then like you're part of T.I.'s, you know, Grand Hustle Empire. That's pretty significant. Like, what is it like working with him, and like what kind of advice has he given you? Has he really helped you, you know, to make some of the moves you've been making?
With T.I., he gives me a lot of advice, but it's always more personal advice. Career moves and musically what I'm doing, he doesn't step on my toes too much with that, and I'll usually call him and be like, hey Tip, I'm doing this, what do you think? And he'll say, whoa, congratulations, that's great. Now when you do it, don't forget, and then the advice part will come. And he definitely more gives me personal advice as a person, because I think there are a lot of people professionally around artists that can help you, but there are not a lot of artists and people that have actually been in those shoes that can tell you, hey, when this happens, this is how you handle it. And so for me, Tip's always been like an older brother for me in that respect. And whenever there's something bad in the press or something I'm frustrated with, or I can't balance certain parts of my personal life, I will give Tip a call, because he's like the pinnacle to me of how to do that. And he has a family, and you never see him lose it in the media, and he's like flawless. So I call Tip and say, Tip, what should I do? And he'd give me advice on that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Well, there it is. Well, we appreciate you coming through, Iggy.
Awesome. Good to be here.
Thank you very much. This is Soren Baker on The Aftermath. You can follow me on Twitter at SorenBaker.
I'm Billy Johnson Jr. You can follow me on Twitter at Y_Billy Johnson.
And I'm Iggy Azalea. You can follow me on my Twitter, Iggy Azalea. Azalea is spelled Azalea. Bye, guys.
And thanks, Katrina Wright, for the shirts. Appreciate it.